This is an interesting video, or the topic of this video I think is interesting. It's what makes something critical. If you're taking one of my units, something that we talk about is critical pedagogy. Most probably I've had you read one or more of the articles or chapters that I've written with other colleagues or by other people still that deal with critical multicultural social studies, CMSS, which is social studies. And again, social studies for me is society, social studies, civics and citizenship education, SOCE, society. What does SOCE stand for? It's not in my mind right now. Or multicultural education. All that for me is social studies. It's similar. They vary, but that's my area of expertise, and that's what I teach and write about. But I don't just teach a social studies. I encourage, and you're welcome to do or not do what you want as future teachers. It's your right in terms of having academic freedom and free speech and whatnot. But it is my obligation to model for you and teach you about and have you practice what I think is best, and then you choose what you want to do. Part of that involves CMSS, social studies that's also infused with and driven by critical pedagogy and multicultural education. So you've probably read some about that in my unit. But what makes something critical? So let's talk about the critical of CMSS, especially when you're writing lessons and whatnot. For me, a lesson that's critical, or an analysis of an article or a reading or a movie that's critical, and again, critical pedagogy comes from people like Paulo Freire, Michelle Fine, my colleague and friend David Zinger teaches from this perspective. There's many people in the faculty that do. Henry Giroux, Michael Apple, Shirley Steinberg, Joe Kinchlow. Come and see me, I'll give you a list of references. But those are people that write about, Peter McLaren, that write about critical pedagogy. When something is critical, it means it is imbued with a sense of critique. So I'm going to deliver a lesson or talk about a topic with youngsters or with adults and try to encourage within them a sense of critique. They can critique what's being talked about, or you can critique a reading or a film, or within a lesson it is imbued with a sense of critique. What that means is, very concretely, and again, do these readings as well, it'll help you out. Most of them are very approachable, the ones that I'm assigning. But first of all, we talk about the ways in which we're similar and different as human beings. We openly talk about them. That's also kind of a liberal, centrist, Vygotskian, Deweyan approach, that we acknowledge our similarities and differences. We don't shy from them. Mommy, how come that guy looks different? Daddy, how come? We talk about them openly. We don't hide from them in school contexts or outside of school contexts. So we talk about our similarities and differences. We acknowledge power relationships and how, based on power relationships, some people around these differences are privileged, like men like me that look, who are male and who are white and who are middle class, at least in appearance, and the privilege that comes with that was not earned. We do earn privilege in our life, and we do earn, accolades, and we do, certainly those things happen, but also maleness comes with it, a sense of power and privilege that was not earned. So does straightness, so does whiteness. And in my units, and other units at this university, we critique and look at that. But how are we similar and different as human beings? What are the power relationships such that some are advantaged and others are disadvantaged? What might we do to critique that advantage or disadvantage, that oppression, and redistribute power relationships such that things are more equitable? And then setting about doing that. And then, after having done it, to reflect on it. So if you are planning a lesson, for example, and in your CMSS curriculum mini units, throughout your lessons, I want to see real, you type it out, we will discuss power with the kids based on how women versus men are portrayed in Australian textbooks, like very specifically. Or ask kids, who is an Australian? Or showing pictures. Who's Australian? Why? Why not? I've seen this done in beautiful ways with preppies. My students working with preppies. With year sixers. Whoa, amazing things. In age-appropriate ways, right? But having them really engage this. Well, do you think that's fair? Here's another word for oppression is unfair. For liberation, fair. Do you think this is fair or unfair, children? Why do you think it's fair or unfair? Sorry, I knocked the mic. How might we make it more fair? And then let's try to make it more fair. Build that into your lessons. Actually give that a go. And we talk about that. This is talked about in a good number of the readings that I have you doing. In the ones I've done, but the others have done. The work of Rethinking Schools. You can go to rethinkingschools.org. Some of the readings in the unit are probably from Rethinking Schools. That's what they're doing. They're doing CMSS. They're talking about ways they've tried to use critical multicultural social studies approaches to teaching. So when I say your mini unit needs to have, and your lessons need to have CMSS in them, that's what I'm talking about. So we can, look, we'll go get a coffee, we'll talk more. You'll do the readings first, you'll watch the videos, you'll read some of the supplementary things I'm suggesting. But after that, you want to hang out and talk about it in groups or individually during office hours, I'd be more than happy to. But I'm asking you demonstrate to me through this written curriculum or this enacted curriculum that you're going to be trying with youngsters, and it goes so well, But does it push your thinking? Is it new? Is it a challenge? Yes. Yes, absolutely. But that's how we learn as adults and as youngsters, by trying new things. We want to arm you. I hate violence metaphors. Anyway, we want you to have as many tools, building metaphor, Bob the Builder, right? As many tools as possible in your construction belt, in your tradie belt, so that when you're in your classroom, you can use the tools that will help you meet the needs of the kids the most. So that is what critical means in CMSS, especially in relation to writing lessons and doing curriculum. All right. It's not the end of a conversation, it's the beginning, but I thought I would give some more background. So I hope that's useful. Thanks. Here's the fine print stuff at the end. This video is intended for students that are taking my units or classes. This is for supplementary informational purposes only. In any instance where what is said here conflicts with a unit guide, a study guide, a unit rubric, or university or faculty guidelines, they hold sway. Next, after watching this video, if you have remaining questions, set up a time to meet with me during office hours. I'd be glad to talk to you, to meet in person, by phone, or by Skype. But please read all the relevant course information first. Next, this video is produced independently from any institution and is protected under a Creative Commons copyright. Watch it, use it, enjoy it, or ignore it. Just don't change it or sell it. All right, that's the end of the fine print. Thanks.